one of the false claims that the Corridor Crew guy Nico made, saying there was no parallax. There actually is proven parallax that you see here.
Missing Malaysian Flight 370 UFO is disinfo. Mind Wars is the name of the operation. Please don't fall for this. This is actually what is supposed to sell you on Bluebeam. This is Agenda 24. Fake alien invasion will scare the world into voting to unite as one government. Bluebeam, Project Bluebeam, coming soon, 2024.
Greetings, we are anonymous.
Greetings world. We are anonymous. With the disappearance of those on Malaysian Airlines MH370, billionaire Jacob Rothschild becomes the sole owner of an important semiconductor patent. Coincidence? I think not. The mysteries surrounding Malaysian airliner MH370 and Mr. Rothschild is smack dab in the middle. Illuminati member Rothschild is believed to have exploited the airliner to gain full patent rights of an incredible KL03 microchip. The US technological company, Freescale Semiconductor, who shared its rights with Rothschild, had 20 senior members on board, who had just launched a new electronic warfare gadget for military radar systems the day before the plane went missing. The semiconductor company develops microprocessors, sensors, and other technology, including standalone semiconductors, that perform dedicated computing functions. But the questions that arise are, why were there so many Freescale employees traveling together? What were their jobs? Their mission? And did the employees carry valuable cargo? With all the power our elite carry, why couldn't they track down the missing plane? Of the 239 people aboard flight MH370, most of them were engineers working to make the company's chip facilities in Tianjin, China, and Kuala Lumpur more efficient. These were people with a lot of experience and technical background, and they were very important people, Hawes said. It is definitely a loss for the company. Mitch Hawes, Vice President of Global Communications and Investors Relations. According to the Freescale's website, operations for the company began in 1972 and covered an 8-hectare site that tests and manufactures microprocessors, digital signal processors, and integrated radio frequency circuits. Furthermore, it owns Freescale RF, which is involved in making solutions for aerospace and defense, including battlefield communications, avionics, HF radar, band L&S, missile guidance, electronic warfare, and identification IFF. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The Freescale's shareholders include the Carlyle Group, whose past advisors have included ex-US President George Bush Sr. and former British Prime Minister John Major. Some of the company's previous clients include the construction firm owned by the family of Osama bin Laden, the Saudi bin Laden Group. What makes this claim stand out above all the other theories is the fact that so many highly qualified staff members were on board, and if the airliner crashed into the Indian Ocean, as recently reported, then this would validate the claim all the more. Considering the large passenger jet had flown undetected for 6 hours, the elites had to be involved, because they are the only ones who can accomplish such a task. According to World Truth TV, avoiding radar via cloaking technology has long been one of the objectives of the defense industry, and Freescale has been active developing chips for military radar. On its website, the company says its radio frequency products meet the requirements for applications in avionics, radar, communications, missile guidance, electronic warfare, and identification, friend or foe. The company announced that it was creating a team of specialists dedicated to producing radio frequency power products for the defense industry. They also announced it was releasing 11 of these new gadgets for use in high-frequency VHF and low-band UHF radar and radio communications. The company, Freescale, did not respond to questions from Express Online, including whether any of its missing employees had been working on the defense products. It neither provided any responses to the latest bizarre conspiracy theory being widely published on the comments sections of newspaper websites and other internet forums. Some comments read, "Have you pieced together the puzzle of missing Flight 370 to Beijing, China? If not, here are your missing pieces." 4 days after the flight MH370 disappearance, semiconductor patent was approved by the US Patent Office. Patent is divided in parts of 20% between 5 starters. One of the owners is the company itself, Freescale Semiconductor, Austin, Texas, USA, and the other 4 Chinese employees of the company, Pidong Wang, Zijin Cheng, and Liang Zijing, all the Suzhou City. And they all were passengers of Malaysia Airlines plane that disappeared on March 8th, according to Eternity. It adds, "Here is your motive for the missing Beijing plane." As all 4 Chinese members of the patent were passengers on the missing plane. Patent holders can alter the proceeds legally by passing wealth to their heirs. However, they cannot do so until the patent is approved. So when the plane went missing, the patent had not been approved. Although a Freescale patent exists under number US 8650327, none of the names listed actually appear on the passenger manifest released by the Malaysian authorities. If the patent holder dies, the other owners share equally in dividends from the deceased. If 4 of the 5 patentees die, then the patentee left alive gets 100% of the patent. That remaining patent holder is the company Freescale Semiconductor. Who owns Freescale Semiconductor? The answer is Jacob Rothschild. British billionaire owns the company Blackstone, which in turn owns the company Freescale Semiconductors. Several speculations on the internet now are paying attention to this circumstance. The Rothschilds are a dynasty of financiers and international bankers of German Jewish origin. The family is from the 19th century, one of the most influential families of bankers and financiers of Europe. Is this just another coincidence? I don't think so. Rothschild is hiding evidence to gain the rights to this semiconductor. He wants power, and he wants his money. It may have taken 239 deaths to do it, but to him, that is just part of population control. In the end, he gets his money, his fame, and his power. All while the world remains silent. Or so they thought. Time to expose this fraud for who he really is. We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. To all Rothschild's bloodline, we will be hunting all of you. Expect that.
We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
You felt it your entire life, that there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
Throughout history, the world has been controlled by big ideologies such as religion, socialism and capitalism, to name but a few. These are all forms of slavery that have stopped our evolution and removed our freedom. Anonymous see these ideologies for what they are, systems of control. The time for change is now. No longer shall the people be oppressed by corruption. In case you are blissfully unaware of who we are, let me tell you this: we are not just a person. As people die, we are an idea, and ideas are immortal. We are justice, and justice cannot be silenced. We are the ones governed by no law. We are the ones who do not beg for justice to take its course. We are the ones your parents warned you about. We are the voice of the silent in the eyes of the blind. We are Anonymous.
In our obsession with antagonisms of the moment, we often forget how much unites all the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bond. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us? What could be more alien to the universal aspirations of our peoples than war and the threat of war? In our obsession with antagonisms of the moment.
In 1994, the World Population Summit in Cairo, Egypt, had 160 nations participate, where they all agreed that the human population was out of control and must be stopped, because the world is running out of resources. An agreement was formed that would mandate the reduction of humans from 6 billion to 800 million by the year 2030. This meant finding a method or methods to wipe out nearly 95% of the population. Solutions were discovered, investigated, tested, then created, and have been in full force since. The procedures have been inflicted onto the human race are as follows. 1. Toxic levels of chemically enhanced fluoride have been secretly added to our drinking water over the last 20 years in every city and community on the planet. I personally oversaw the delivery of fluoride barrels to Denver, Chicago, Tampa, and Minneapolis water departments. The adverse effects of fluoride poisoning to the human body are numerous and debilitating. The effects to children is damage to their neurological development, among other serious ailments. 2. man-made viruses and diseases. The AIDS virus, which was a design and byproduct of the American Disease Institute, was distributed through vaccines to the public in 1980. Instituted as a preliminary population control tactic, the results were successful and led to more lab-produced viruses that have since been unleashed onto the public. Among those is the development of a mutated version of the common flu to replicate the 1918 influenza pandemic that killed 40 million people. The first strain of this new flu virus will be released to the public in late 2017. So if we see a flu outbreak in the late 2017 or early 2018 that's killing people, we'll know this is true. All right. 3. Killing us from the air with neurotoxins, barium chloride, cancer microbes, and viruses by way of chemtrails. Released into the skies daily over all inhabited regions by military aircrafts. The effects of these toxins are severe and over time lethal, causing respiratory ailments, cancer, damage to the immune systems, and sterilization in men. Since the chemtrail plan was implemented, sperm count in men has dropped nearly 50%. If this isn't reversed soon, the human race will face early extinction. Now the grand finale. This is some scary shit. In March 1997, an event known as the Phoenix Lights became the most infamous UFO sighting in history. A mile-wide vessel, clearly not man-made, flew slowly and silently over the state of Arizona and was witnessed by 10,000 people, including the governor of Arizona. To date, there has been no reasonable explanation. But for every witness interviewed, the craft was as real as anything they'd ever seen. Their lives were transformed. They now believe that we truly are not alone. However, there is another truth, for I know what they really saw. In 1986, while stationed at an underground installation near Boulder, Colorado, I was introduced to Project Skybeam by Lieutenant General Andrew Garris. I was then led down a corridor and into a large hangar where a stealth bomber hovered only 20 feet above me. I stood there confused, and Garris looked over at me and smiled, then asked if I was certain of what I was seeing. I replied, of course. What else could it be? I was then shocked to find out that this wasn't a real craft. It was a projected hologram. Since the early 1950s, scientists have been developing holographic technology, and over the years improved it to a state that we can only imagine. As I stood there staring at the bomber, which looked so absolutely real and solid that I could reach up and touch it, I contemplated the possibilities. What if this projection was 1,000 feet up in the sky? How would anyone know that that was an illusion? The Phoenix Lights craft, witnessed by 10,000 people, was the first grand-scale skybeam test upon the public. It succeeded beyond expectations. In October 1938, Orson Welles unleashed his War of the Worlds radio broadcast to the American public. It was so real.
I guess to the Middle East in hopes that it would make them stop their war, and I don't know, it was stupid. Like, it was like they really wanted to do this, and I guess the project itself was denied. They pretty much just told them no. But these satellites still they're already there in the sky. Anytime that you hear about something that they want to actually finally make noticeable, they want to make it sound like, hey, we want to do this. They already done it. They've already been doing it. And now they're just trying to make it normal. They're trying to make it to the public to where see what the public's reaction would be to it. So, and that's a lot of stuff. The chemtrails are like that. I mean, the CIA director was just saying, hey, we would like to do this project, even though that they've been doing it for the last 30 years. But yeah, Project Bluebeam is another one of these. And the use of the hologram projectors in the sky could actually produced some really, really trippy, bizarre images. Okay, now I'm going to show you some clips here, and you'll see what I am talking about. Let's see if I can find one. This one was the most recent one, and it was the city in the sky. And this was reported in China, I believe. Not 100% sure if that's where it was, but take a look at it and see what you think.
So I don't know if you guys saw this over the weekend, but there was hundreds of people reporting they saw a floating city in the skies above China. It was on Chinese news stations, and there's even a clip of it. And it's been explained away as an optical illusion in the comments sections of these YouTube videos that in China the scientists have explained it, and it has to do with the way that cold, dense air at the surface bends light reflected from a distant object, otherwise known as a fata morgana. Looks something like this. Although, in my opinion, this video, it looks a little bit high off the ground for that to be the case, but that's what they're claiming. But there have been other sightings of these cities appearing in the sky that cannot be so easily explained away. And I don't know if you guys remember back in 2012 when an entire African village saw what appeared to be a city floating in a cloud over their village. And the way they described it was beautiful tall buildings inside of it with tarred roads and cars. It was like a flying city, and from it I could hear the sound of machines making noise just as you would hear at a Shaka cement factory. Obviously that wasn't a reflection of their city because they don't have tall buildings, they don't have tarred roads, so either all of these people were on crack and they hallucinated this, or somebody's playing with their toys over an area where they know people aren't going to have cell phones and whip out their iPhone and be able to film it. And I know some people have said it, and it was the first thing I thought of too, Project Bluebeam. There are people that claim that Bluebeam was never really an actual thing the government ever considered, that it was entirely made up. And I just want to point out to you that it's not. I actually came across this article in unrelated research, and it turns out they're talking basically about Bluebeam in here, and I don't know if you guys have seen this, but it's an article from the Washington Post from 1999 called "When Seeing and Hearing Isn't Believing." And the different things they came up with get to this part where it says, Allah on the holodeck. It talks about all these psyops that the Pentagon was planning against the Iraqis after the invasion of Kuwait in 1990, and one of the things they came up with was, what if the U.S. projected a holographic image of Allah floating over Baghdad, urging the Iraqi people and army to rise up against Saddam? A senior Air Force officer asked in 1990. According to a military physicist who was given the task of looking into this idea, the feasibility had been established of projecting large three-dimensional objects that appear to float in the air. But could they do it over Iraq? And it says that they calculated that projecting such a hologram over Baghdad several hundred feet would take a mere more than a mile square in space, as well as huge projectors and power sources. And they weren't sure what Allah looked like. But then it goes on to say that the Gulf War hologram story might be dismissed were it not the case that Washington Post had learned a super secret program was established in 1994 to pursue the very technology for PSYOPs application. The holographic projector is described in a classified Air Force document as a system to project information power from space for special operations deception missions. So they were going to do it. They were looking into it. And that's back in 94. So in 90 they came up with the idea, started looking into it. In 94 they were pursuing it. Who knows what they actually have today? But they probably wouldn't test it here where every other person and their grandma has an iPhone. They're going to test it in places like in Africa, in some village where they're banking on the fact that the people aren't going to have iPhones. Not only that, but I just want to point out really quick, and by now you're probably figuring out that this mysterious sighting in China just gave.
It's interesting that she says that, because as I've also learned that there's a lot of suppressed technology out there that we're not told about on a daily basis. Most of these PSYOP projects were a part of the MK Ultra experiments and a lot of other underground experiments that they had about mind control and trying to make people do stuff. A system of persuading, or in other words, mind fucking. How to trick someone into doing anything that you want them to do. But let's get back to the topic of the Project Bluebeam. There's just a lot of cool things. If you don't understand how the holographs actually really work,
We're not sure what it is. Is it some sort of balloon that's lit? It's not moving. It's circular in nature.
See,
it looks solid.
what I think their main goal is now, since they can't do the Allah project, which they still might end up doing it anyways, is they want to trick people into thinking we're under some kind of a invasion or a fake rapture or a whole bunch of other things. They're going to make it to where each country has their own version of what's going on. So, the Middle East is going to see Allah, the Christians are going to see Jesus, Catholics are probably going to see Jesus, maybe, I don't know. They might make a fake state, I don't know. There's no telling what technology we really have now. If we actually have the projector technology that could come from the sky, they can make it